are going to close off the morning with two of the legends of Australian PropTech. So they told me in their briefing notes. I think many of you know Mark Cohen. Mark used to be the CTO of the illustrious Domain, and now is that role at MRI and has made amazing work. He is going to talk about Agora, the product which in many ways is a response to the trends we see in the market. Two trends: the absolute proliferation of SaaS data that is overwhelming, but the ability of AI and technology to produce insights and simplicity out of great complexity. So to me, Agora is a great example of the simplicity and the sophistication that can come when you apply trends in your favor. And he's going to be spoken to by the amazing Dr. Sarah Bell, who we know as the mother of Rita and the mother of many of us spiritually. Please welcome them both, Mark and Sarah.
So we did have some slides, but I don't think they made the cut. But we can just start with an observed. Kylie, we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that John just described me as a spiritual mother, and Kylie fixed my top on the way out there. So I think there's a bit of competition with that. It's my pleasure to sit here with Mark Cohen from MRI. I've had quite an interesting journey through the PropTech space, and I'm very happy to have landed at MRI. I think one of the grounding things about this company is the determination by everyone on the executive to be both big and good. And the vision that I've subscribed to and am super enthusiastic about is the Agora product vision. And kind of our regional mastermind for that is Mark, so I'll let you kick us off.
I'll do a quick intro. I just wanted to tie back to what Steve was talking about. I wanted to meet you I've been in Australia for 23 years, I think, and I've always wanted to meet you, so glad to meet you. You had a slide at the beginning. Steve had the slide about change or technologies, the change is the constant and accelerating with the wave. And it reminded me, there's a John Kabat-Zinn had a quote that I love, which was, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." And that just pulls together the whole idea of what Agora is about. It's exactly that. It's this technology change which keeps happening. And at MRI, we're an acquisitive business. If you have a property that you rent in Australia, there's an even chance it's managed on our product. If you rent in New Zealand, odds are highly likely that it's on an MRI product. If you buy a house, it's running through a CRM, more than likely in either country through one of our products. And we keep growing. So the problems that we're solving internally are similar to the problems in the marketplace. And you'll often hear MRI talking about open and connected long before we spoke about Agora. We want to work with partners. Sarah's role in a large part involves key partnerships. We want to be that player in the ecosystem. And if you've ever met David Bowie, who's our boss, it's all about trust. Everything with him is about being ethical and open and honest and even and trusted. And that's basically the presence that MRI is trying to craft. So how does that translate into a tech strategy? The more products we own, the more exponentially difficult it gets for us to ship value to customers. We also know that the products we buy, people love. We want to keep selling them. Pat Gilani, who's the global CEO, says, if a customer still wants to buy a product, we will still support the product. So how do you reconcile acquisition after acquisition, Metcalfe's law of complexity? Every time you add a node, it's exponentially more complicated with stable growth. And the way we do it is there's kind of three tiers to it. And the foundational layer is what we call MRI Agora. MRI Agora is a brand name for a platform strategy in essence. And there's components to it, which I'll just touch on really quickly. And then I'll go back to you. The base layer is all about the data. So every product we own is being integrated into this data lake. We have visualizations, we produce insights on top of that. And that path goes to the AI that we were talking about earlier. The basic, we have a nice slide with evolution where we talk about the chimpanzee really is your BR reporting, and you go through the evolution to the AI robot at the front end, and you have to go through that journey. You can't arrive at the end without building through the layers. That's the first layer. So everything goes into a data lake. The second layer is connectivity, and that can be data or it can be app to app. So it could be through we have an event hub, effectively, an event bus. And the best example we have is a customer can be using Box and Dice, which is one of our CRMs. They have the app, they open, they sign in at the door, someone's come to and open for inspection. They're told there and then, this person you are talking to has got 4 investment properties managed by your property management arm. So the way you as an agent would interact with the customer is fundamentally different from someone who's a drop-in, who's kicking tires and may not even be that interested in buying. So that's just a great example of the value created by real-time connection. And the third one is when we talk about APIs and open and connected. So we're ultimately striving to have that kind of connectivity, not just within our suite, but within partners as well. And so to open it up more into the marketplace. And then we'll do things to tie together from the user experience perspective, like single sign-on and making things look and feel similar, that sort of stuff as well. So that's really the layers that we have.
And so when we talk about Agora, my first question was obviously where did that name come from? And it's the Agora is what the ancient Greeks and the Greeks called the forum or the marketplace where everything comes together. And so you can't actually buy Agora. You can buy an insights product that is the BI overlay of Agora. But Agora is definitely an approach and a philosophy that all of these things should tie together and be interconnected. And I think when we look into the horizon of customer experience and what they want out of their technology, we're hearing, I want to have more control and visibility of my data. I want to have a unified single customer view so I can speak intelligently to that customer no matter how they're interacting with either my core products or the partner products that I'm choosing to plug in to my stack. They want to know, they want to have a real sense of interoperability. If you look at your average real estate office, they've got 15 at least different essential systems that are running their business, and traditionally none of those talk to one another, but they do in Agora. And not only are they interoperable, but again, the data is all collected, normalized, and structured in a way that is sensible for that exchange, both in the application layer and in the data layer. So the capabilities that Agora unlocks to kind of solve those meta problems and bring the ecosystem into that solution is truly exciting. And we talked before about change and kind of being brave and stepping up to change. Like, MRI is a private equity North American owned company. And I always talk about how brave it is for our executive to go to that private equity board quarter after quarter, give Mark another $10 million to spend on the plumbing, and Agora is the plumbing, right? It's the stuff behind the walls that no one sees, that no one is ever going to buy. Whereas, if you don't have plumbing working in your house, you pretty quickly discover that it's unworkable. Yeah. But so lots of people want to buy the electric side. They want to buy features. They want to buy buttons. They want to buy stuff they can see. But actually, that step change, that exponential new capability lift that Agora delivers is all both unseen and pretty unsellable.
It's the double-edged sword, I guess, of platform. When we talk to our customer advisory boards would have heard us talking about that life cycle view 2-3 years ago before we actually started rolling Agora out. So the feedback that we get from customers in conversations is, firstly, it's baked into our product strategy across APAC to understand the difference between the person who signs the contract and the power user, the person who's the real influencer. If you have a team who use whatever the product is and you've got a dozen people on your team and 8 of them say, yeah, we don't like the MRI product, we're dead in the water. Whereas if the principal of the agency is undecided, but those 8 people are saying, go with the MRI product, the deal's going to sway in our favor. So we very much favor the power users, and we try and build a product to serve their need. Now, what we hear from them is there's 2 key drivers. And I'll give you a great example, which I think illustrates this. It is about taking away repetitive, mundane tasks that should be automated, and we're trying to increasingly do that. Someone has to check keys in and out, or someone has to, in fact, on the survey that Sarah referenced, where we found at least 15 systems in your average residential agency and at least 9 unique systems in commercial property management, not counting things like Salesforce or Microsoft Office, just the tools that they use for real estate management. So automation and double entry. The number of 1 in 3 said that they have to enter the same information into multiple systems manually because they're just not integrated. Now, if you think of that as a cost, because time is money, that's a huge cost to people. And if we can just take that away, firstly, we save the company money, but secondly, people enjoy their job a bit more if you're not being forced to do that sort of work. There's a beautiful example which will be in the market next year, actually. And Adam Campbell, who's the director looking after our enterprise CRMs, has got a video he's done for us of a product called Secure Sign and Vault, and then Agora single sign-on. So we have a little app switcher widget. It's if you click on the logo, you get the flyout with the icons to swap between the apps you have, similar to, I'm trying to think who's got one. Google's got one if you use G Suite, or Microsoft Office has got one where you click and you get that expander, but it's got notifications baked into it. So he goes in, he pulls a contract up and dispatches a contract from Vault. It populates with all the information for the contract. The customer receives it and does a digital signature. It's a product similar to DocuSign. When the customer signs it and clicks submit, you can be working anywhere else in the ecosystem and you get a little alert saying your contract's not been signed, kick off your marketing schedule, or your congratulations, your sale's been signed, whatever it happens to be. And it's that real-time tying of things together and removing, it's the don't make me think, just make workflow for people. That's how the glue will kick in. And as you say, that's not an extra fee or whatever. It's not a sellable product in its own right.
Yeah, but I think it's the expectation. It speaks to the expectation. And when I think about, my kind of time in this ecosystem, a lot of those simple problems have been solved. And the expectation that our customer has is definitely for some of these chunky, big, complex problems, these more wicked problems of interconnectivity, interoperability need to be solved. A conversation that we're increasingly hearing and talking about as well is about the data and in the data that belongs to an individual business. MRI is kind of in a unique position because, with our footprint in the industry, we control and house the majority of the industry's data, and we don't own any of it, but it's a unique position as data controllers in that supply chain. And so more and more I'm heading into conversations where, one single piece or one single domain of agency data will be claimed by, 25 different actors. That's our data, that's our data, that's our data. And so looking at the integrity of the supply chain as information flows, not only through MRI, but through the ecosystem, we're in a much better position to kind of help our customers manage that lineage, manage that data exchange between their partnership apps. Also, going through that kind of most of the problems that Kylie sort of had listed as those wicked problems that we need to collectively solve as a community of practice, so many of them related to that data supply chain integrity. And I think that's the wicked problem we all have to solve, because information, faster, better, more controlled data exchange, again, that supply chain integrity is one piece of data, then tentacles out to kind of 15 different copies and manifestations and an intricate network of licensing, but understanding ultimately the sort of prime licensee is the customer that gave it to you and should be able to revoke it at any time anyway, is becoming a much more complex problem that Agora gives us the capability to help the ecosystem kind of manage and track that integrity. So that's a super interesting problem to solve. I've just seen our slides. Just trust me, that was so good.
Covered most of it. There is on the data thing, there's an interesting conversation which comes up fairly often where a business might feel that they own data that's got value and they don't want to transact with that data. But that data is actually, if you upload a listing to a portal, the terms and conditions say by clicking the send, it's licensed to them. They now own that data. And the agents kind of feel like that's their data, but it's been given away already. The most valuable data that the agents own, and this is why Dan Oatley at the time, they built that sign-in app. It's because the most valuable data that an agent owns is who came to the open for inspection. That is the most likely buyer right there, and that's not the data that's necessarily in the system and flowing around.
Yeah, I think as we start to kind of lift our data fluency and data maturity, we start to understand that the data that's living in MRI systems differential in its sensitivity. It's, and when we think about it in domains, we know about certain listing data that kind of is surfaced through advertising that we see all of the time, and that's so hotly contested over. That's the one that we keep sort of hearing about is my data, my data, my data, when there's 25,000 copies of my data, and the complexity is there's multiple claims of of ownership to that same piece of information through that chain, but the real valuable data isn't necessarily sensitive. It isn't necessarily PII, and we're curious and we're exploring now that we have this interconnected capability. How can we be collectively smarter? How can we help our customers exchange and collect not just information, but wisdom and insights from their ecosystem of connected applications? And can that all live in one place where it's interpretable, where it's able to be interrogated, and where that kind of data can convert to insight and action from there?
We've got 10 minutes. Do we want to take questions?
We can, yeah.
We've got slides, but I think we've kind of covered our slides. I don't know.
Someone in marketing's going to be really annoyed. We can take some questions, yeah.
Just on the data thing, the one observation I'd make is the most valuable thing that you have is not the 20 calls that you've made to a client or the 20 decisions that you've made or the 20 data points. It is the relationships. And that's the real value, is how you have built those relationships with your clients or your people.
And it's interesting, we said we'd take questions, but we're still talking. It's interesting, I think, if you look at how people do real estate, so much of it is delivered through workflows that are software driven, right? So if those software workflows are becoming more homogenized, then it is increasingly difficult for our customers to differentiate their service and marketplace and point to a unique service proposition. So most of the time agents are going into the listing presentation in the lounge room and competing on very ethereal battlegrounds like honesty and negotiation prowess and things like that, which are very difficult to measure and demonstrate. A lot of the marketing experience or the marketing function is homogenized to an extent. And so we know that one of the ways that our customers can differentiate and not commoditize their service offering, defend their fees, defend their expertise, is through the service design choices they're making in what they choose to niche down on and plug in to our systems. We're also, I think, very empathetic to we talk about the waves coming. There is like wave after wave of lift being expected in the industry, and rightly so. They're just all coming at once. So, in the 12-month horizon, we've got KYC and AML and 50,000 other acronyms around anti-money laundering. There's tenancy reforms, the REIT Commission, energy efficiency recommendations. All of this is turning into product level requirements to help our customers be compliant to these sort of wave after wave of innovation and reform. But having all of that information and insight connected, we think, will help ease the shocks.
Chris Mercer talks about the number of properties per property manager over, I think, the last 20 years. And I always find that so confronting, because what he's effectively showing is that for all the automation and technology that we've brought in, the overhead, the legislative requirements, the compliance requirements have offset any of the gains fundamentally. So the properties per property managers fundamentally remain the same. And that's where the step change is going to come from, is how we can tackle that, how we can start to actually get real good automation.
Yeah, I wonder if we could measure government on margin cost impact of reforms. But it's an interesting space, and I can't say I'm philosophically, we're for better, more comfortable, energy efficient homes that are more healthy and better to live in. We're for, a fairer and dignified experience of property for all of the Australians that rent, and we're for, obviously, real estate not being a money laundering hub for bad actors. And so all of these things just have to be implemented, but doing that at a platform level simplifies the burden of the change, simplifies the shock of the change. And now that we've spent however many years doing and however many millions doing the plumbing, we can focus on some of the good change stuff. While humans fear change, they also crave novelty. And so we need to kind of balance those shocks with excitement.
Yeah. We have 5 minutes to go. We got a question from Leanne. Hey.
My question's more on strategy. Obviously, with the acquisitions that MRI does, you have multiple of the same products, 4 CRMs, 3 property management systems. And you mentioned that Pat has said that, okay, if customers still like using it, we'll keep it. So just wondering what the strategy is going forward and how you develop and market competitive products within the company. I'm
actually doing a strategy that I've kind of done once before. And John can actually vouch for it because it's working at Domain. And what's baked into our product strategy this year as a very simple mantra is platform over product. So when we create things, we're trying to build a platform increasingly, more and more. When we first started doing platform at Domain, we had 5 people in the platform team, 1 QA, 1 leader, and 3 devs. Today, at the point I left, I assume it's roughly the same today, 1/3 of the team was working in platform. So building that tech out more and more and more to have APIs everywhere for everything, platform-driven architecture. We're doing the same thing. So we continue to invest in the products. We will, in fact, each of the product teams today, almost all of them are bigger than they were when I joined. And we will continue to do that because the products are all unique. There's a real value. There's a reason why someone chose one over the other. And we don't negate that. So we'll continue to build the products. But a lot of those features, especially the generic features, like Sarah just spoke, not generic, common is probably a better word. The common features like anti-money laundering, which we know was solved by Vault in the UK. We'll bring that solution and share it. And so platform over product is the philosophy for building, but those products will all stay in market.
I think commercially or from a market strategy, I think MRI is quite unique in that we embrace competition, and it's not even welcome, come get it. It's not that sort of competition. We really believe in client success by client choice, and it's a big driver of our open and connected ecosystem. Like I said, we have multiple competing products. Like, why wouldn't we let customers decide that? And as actors, our choice is always to integrate. Even if you look across, the kind of apex actors in the ecosystem, we get on well. We have great collegiate relationships, with our strongest competitors. And I think you've got to always respect the customer choice. And if they don't buy one product, they might buy another one. And our challenge is to just help that overall experience, which the platforming and Agora does.
Mark, I've got a question. The issue of integration, and everybody wants to integrate with everyone else, and there's a cost and a time and a resource and focus to that. How does MRI solve that problem? Like, how do you prioritise who you integrate with? What's the process?
We do have to prioritise. So we don't do. When we say open, it does not mean unmanaged. So it's not a blanket, come and get it, open to integration. We're handling, fundamentally at the core of all of our systems is trust accounting. It's really important that the data coming in and leaving is quality. We can't take risks. So we do manage. We have a partner, Sarah's team, really. We have a partner team who look after who's coming in from externally. And then internally integrations, most of the products that we own are integrated with APIs already, but we have this event bus kind of architecture where we're starting to increasingly subscribe to events. So we can say there's a vacancy, people can be listening for it, or a new tenancy or whatever. And we're architecturally building around a more scalable solution than a spider web of APIs. But to the market, there's an API.
Yeah, I think there's 12 actual kind of strategic anchors that we use in that prioritization matrix to make sure that the decisions that we're making around partnership prioritization, and we're busy, right? Where this is the biggest partnership ecosystem that exists, and even things that we really want to do like today will take time because of that pipeline. So, but largely if it helps to make the product suite more comprehensive and it's customer led, if you want a partnership accelerated, just get our customers to tell us that's what they want, because ultimately we know that our customers will suck everyone from David down.
I think we're
David the
about
monk.
out of time. We'll have to make it the last question.
This will be the elephant in the room.
Go for it. We like elephants.
There's plenty of opposition. You
Yeah.
bought a lot and you've got your own ecosystem. Will you integrate with other systems that are effective competitors with you?
I'll give you one simple example, which is Bricks and Agents, our biggest partner, I think. They also own the competing product to MRI Inspect. I forget which one he bought, Inspection Manager.
Yeah, Inspection Manager.
So the short answer is yes. We also, in the US, there's a company called Yardi, who's a massive competitor to, they're bigger than MRI, I think, but bigger than PMX. PMX is our competitor to Yardi. And we have locally a product, a business that was called Cougar that we acquired, asset modeling, investment modeling. Their integrations are, they've got the integrations into Yardi so that you can work with a competitor product and use that product. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, if I have to prioritize integrations in APAC right now, there needs to be a compelling reason why I would choose that over the integrations I already need to do. So if it's customer driven, much better opportunity. But if you've got something in particular you want to talk about, let's have a chat.
Yeah, but we don't get a lot of demand to integrate our CRMs with other CRMs.
No.
Because people don't need that because they have one CRM, but there's absolutely nothing in our philosophy that would prevent cooperation with anyone.
The number one demand we get is, sorry, John, I'll wrap up. The number one demand is always from people who are running fundamentally a real estate agency, is a two-channel business. You've got property management and you've got sales. And more often than not, they'll be using us for one channel and not the other. And that's where the scenario often comes up, where they see a demo of Agora Insights and like, oh, we want that. You've only got half the software with us, so we've only got half your data. Can we get the competitor data in? Yes, but not right now because we're still building.
Everyone, big hand for Sarah Mark.
Thank you all. Thanks, John.